Commercial airlines like Delta already use storm scales for dispatch decisions on polar routes. If you have a G3, 4, or 5, you just don't fly over those intersections over the pole. If you have a S345 or a R345, any of the extreme levels of any of the three types of warnings already will cause Delta Airlines to just not fly in those regions because it's a safe thing to do, and I commend them for that. COM and nav systems, high frequency is extremely vulnerable to solar activity. That's why we basically use VHF. Well, that's one of the reasons why we basically went to VHF and UHF for air traffic control. GPS, the storms can cause degradation in accuracy, which is a very bad thing if you're on an approach or if you're even flying at altitude. Fuel costs can increase because you're wavering around. It's like using an old Vortac to try to fly to Gatwick from Atlanta. You want to have GPS up there. You can get scintillation on the day side. You can even degrade service availability. Rarely will it deny service totally, but that's certainly possible with a large solar event. There's a lot of things on this scale that I don't want to see happen as a controller. One more thing I know about solar activity is it can, well, it does. It drives the weather. This is a storm that went through the southeastern U.S. and then on up into Canada, as you can see, earlier in this year. And there were 151 people killed by this storm. This is an extreme event, and I believe that it's correlated with the solar cycle being so high. The sun drives the weather, and it had everything to do with the weather. And oops, let me go back one slide. There we go. That is extreme, okay? And I believe that when you have extreme solar activity, or even unusually high solar activity, that it introduces energy into the Earth's atmosphere in a manner in which it causes more extreme weather to occur on the Earth. There's no doubt that in the last year we've had extremes, both hot and cold, stormy and not stormy, across the continental United States. We don't have 11 tornadoes in one day very often in Georgia, and we did this past year. I believe this all coincides with solar activity. And in fact, it's not even a belief. It's just deducing facts from what I see. So solar activity definitely produces more extreme weather on the planet. And this might be my opinion, but I believe it to be fact. How does this affect you as an air traffic controller or a safety professional? Well, you should probably have some strategies in place to deal with more extreme weather during solar maximums. And it can't hurt to have those in place anyway, to deal with any extremes in solar, in terrestrial weather. That can only help. But with the increased chance of extreme weather during a solar maximum, it's foolish not to have some type of extreme weather plan in place to handle the possible effects. Air traffic weather, like I said, the most extreme weather in U.S. history was in 2011. This is a map from Greenspace. Winter weather was terrible this year. Tornadoes, thunderstorms all over the place. It affected air traffic control. The sun has experienced a very active period, and it's climbed to cycle 24. So I'm just going to let you make the call. I don't have a lot of fancy titles and PhDs, so I can't give you the facts to back this up. I can give you some good old Southern instinct, though, that says, hey, the weather is crazy right now, and so is the sun. They must be related. On a positive note, solar wind also causes auroras, and they are beautiful to watch, as you can see by the smiley face. These things are fantastic. Spaceweather.com shows photos from Norway and Northern Europe routinely on their site, and auroras are just beautiful occurrences. But when you look at them, you should understand that these are mild solar events, and they increase during a high solar cycle. And the next step from a beautiful aurora is loss of privileges or loss of electronic equipment as humans, and then the next steps after that is abolition of life on the planet. Hopefully that won't happen. Here's some cool events that happened in solar cycle 24 as recorded by Solar Dynamics Observatory. This is June 7th. I watched this with a bunch of kids at the Virginia Highlands Summerfest. That is a fantastically large explosion on the surface of the sun. None of us have ever seen anything like it. I'm just going to let you watch this for a second because it's unbelievable. Wow. It's like an entire quarter of the sun blew off there and just fell back down. Unbelievable. Let's go to the next slide. Let you enjoy this one for a minute or two. Unbelievable. Wow. Go to the next slide. This is the June 7th eruption in several wavelengths. Thank Dynamics Observatory. Just incredible. Boy, what would Galileo have done if he could have the access to this? Thank you, NASA Goddard.